But first, whichever way you look at this pandemic in this country, there can be no dispute that today marked the worst we've ever recorded. Not in Victoria, in Australia. 21 older Australians dead, 40 in just 2 days, 105 in a single week. 105 families, extended families and their friends, gutted by the loss of someone they loved. And what should grate the most with all of us is that if the Victorian Government had been smarter and less arrogant, those lives would not have been lost. And yet today, when a heartfelt apology may have been the best appropriate course of action, we got another exhibition of dodging and weaving from the man in charge of this mess, Daniel Andrews. Now, we've got to drill down into how he handles these daily press conferences to truly understand how he tried to diffuse any criticism coming his way. It is a skill. It is an art form. And the Victorian Labor Premier, well, he is one of the best exponents. For instance, in order to extinguish the criticism he's copped this week for a lack of proper PPE, so personal protection equipment, he fronts up today and stands there and tallies up the number of masks, gowns and shields that have been delivered to Victorian hospitals. So what? No reference to who's been asking for more and the orders which have not been delivered. None of that. No reference to why inferior masks have been delivered as opposed to the N95 respirators, which are the ones health workers would prefer. No reference to that. Just millions of this and millions of that and 22 million this, which makes it appear, oh, so mammoth. But the key criticism he's now facing is that despite being offered ADF staff to run and man hotel quarantine in March, he and his minions refused that help. Now, Defence Minister Linda Reynolds confirmed this late yesterday. We went over that last night. But watch how Chairman Dan tries numerous ways to deflect that confirmation.
So just in broader terms, well, I'm happy to be specific if people want me to, the only quarrel, the only argument, the only fight that I'm interested in and engaged in is against this virus. So I'll be incredibly careful. You've asked me a fresh question. I don't read this in any way, and no one should ever have read in any way that I was critical. But I just want to be careful that no one reads into what I'm about to say. I'm not certain that the ADF have that sort of public health physician, those sorts of people. We've asked for medical teams, and every time we've asked, we've got exactly what we asked for. It does take some time. You can't. It's not just a switch that you flick. We've got hundreds and hundreds of ADF personnel out on the ground as we speak now, knocking on doors, senior people doing work in the State Control Centre, all the way out to mobile testing sites, across the board, and we're deeply grateful to all of them. They're doing a sterling job, and I would just make the point, they've been here since, some of them, not all of them, but some of them have been here since just before New Year's Eve, when I asked them to come.
How is that answering the question about what Linda Reynolds confirmed yesterday, which was that the ADF offered them help and they refused? The reporter wasn't seeking a broad rundown of how useful the ADF is at knocking on doors yesterday. He just totally dismissed the crux of the question. And when he was asked about this again, specifically about the Defence Minister's statement yesterday, he returned to his old trick.
I think that the notion that would have been in any way material to the challenges in hotel quarantine, I think, is not right. That's a month after Ridges, so we can deal with that. There are other processes that will deal with that.
There are processes. There's an inquiry for that question trick. But thankfully, journalists at that press conference today weren't buying the spin. Linda Reynolds' statement meant that someone was telling porkies.
Your press release from March 27 says that it's been agreed that the Australian Defence Force will be engaged to support the implementation of the hotel quarantine arrangements.
Yep.
Why weren't they, given that you said you were going to in that press
No,
release?
I don't think I don't agree with the way you've constructed it. The release that was issued directly after the National Cabinet decision to establish hotel quarantine is one thing. I think if you look at Andrew Christ's statement, he talks about ADF being involved in the establishment of the program.
OK, we'll get to Andrew Crisp in just a second, but this is where he gets caught red-handed. It was in his own statement, March 27. Not only did he know from National Cabinet in a meeting in late March that the ADF would be involved in this program and were offering themselves, but he also knew that the other states and territories were using them as the logistical leaders. This is their specialty, not the specialty of public servants from trade missions under the Jobs Department or agriculture or the National Gallery, nor security guards plucked from some low-rent app. But Dan had his own statement to wave around. This is the statement from his Emergency Commissioner, Andrew Crisp, who stated, "I did not seek, nor did representatives of the ADF offer assistance as part of the hotel quarantine program."
What I can do, though, is be really clear with you that Andrew Crisp has issued a statement. I don't think it could be clearer or plainer, and people can make their own judgments.
We will come back to Andrew Crisp in just a second. So for some bizarre reason, the ADF offers to lead hotel quarantine everywhere in Australia except Victoria. Really? As if. And just say for a second that they didn't offer to run hotel quarantine in Melbourne. Maybe it was too cold for them. Why didn't the Emergency Commissioner, Andrew Crisp, ask for their assistance when he was in contact with them? Because those who ended up doing the job failed dismally. And to make matters worse for the Premier, he started boasting today that Victoria had a hotel quarantine program up and running first, and then this admission.
We thought that there would be a percentage that would not do the right thing.
How's that? He lets it slip that he knew some returning travellers would do the wrong thing. Is that not even more reason to ensure the program was as safe as houses? To ensure amateurs weren't the one and only line of defence against the virus at these hotels? Wasn't that an even greater reason to have police and maybe ADF personnel man each floor, not just the lobby, as occurred widely at hotels in Sydney? There's now a clear conflict between the federal government and the Victorian government over what was offered. And then this afternoon, a direct conflict emerged on this as well between the Health Department and the Jobs Minister, Martin Pakula. Now, you'll recall that only yesterday, the Chief Health Officer, Brett Sutton, distanced himself and his department from hotel quarantine.
The use of private security guards who clearly, as we've heard, were recruited from WhatsApp and other online social media, and who clearly didn't have the time or the training to do quarantine. Did you advise the Minister on that?
No, I was not involved in any of that decision-making whatsoever.
So Health wasn't involved in having security guards as the first and last line of defence. OK. But the Jobs Minister today was not copping the can for this and threw Victorian Health under the bus immediately.
People from my department, whether it be from the Global Victoria team or elsewhere, were primarily responsible for things like logistics. So that would be the booking of rooms, the organising of meals and laundry and things of that nature.
So who did run this shoddy and dangerous program? Who ticked off on security guards? No one wants to own it. But we are getting somewhere, I promise. We're getting closer because today a senior Jobs Department public servant, Simon Femister, claimed the decision to employ security guards was made in a meeting of the State Control Centre, chaired by Emergency Commissioner Andrew Crisp on March the 27th.
So the decision to use private security came from the 4:30 meeting on the 27th. We were directed through that meeting, and indeed we volunteered to run the procurement for private security after that meeting. Our role was to assist. That was published in the plan, and that was very much our mindset. So we played the role of procuring private security that would be operationalised through the plan.
So let me repeat, the Emergency Commissioner, Andrew Crisp, chaired that meeting. Maybe it's time for the Emergency Commissioner to front up for questioning at tomorrow's COVID briefing in Melbourne. But whoever drove this decision, it was, as we all know now, inexcusable and should have been reversed by the ultimate person responsible, the Premier, because as he admitted today, even he knew that they weren't going to follow the rules. There are now more than 200 families who've lost loved ones in this second wave. The result of the pandemic's worst operational decision.